July 22nd, 1864. The air in Washington felt heavier than the summer heat. President Abraham Lincoln sat alone at his desk in the White House long after most of the city had gone quiet. Outside, the war dragged on with no clear end. Inside, the President of the United States was preparing for the possibility that the people might soon turn him out of office. The Civil War had entered its fourth year. What had once been a short, hopeful conflict had become a grinding struggle measured in cemeteries. General Ulysses S. Grant was locked in a brutal siege at Petersburg. Thousands of Union soldiers were dying in relentless assaults that seemed to move the lines only inches. Newspapers in the North printed casualty lists so long they stretched across entire pages. Families read them with dread. Lincoln read them too. He felt every loss. He carried them like stones. The country was tired, and many blamed him. There were whispers in Congress, murmurs in the streets. The peace Democrats, the so-called Copperheads, were growing louder. They argued that the war was a mistake, that the South should be negotiated with, that bloodshed should end even if it meant recognizing the Confederacy. Lincoln's opponent in the coming election, General George McClellan, was running on a platform that suggested peace talks might be possible.
Lincoln understood what that meant. If the public chose peace over perseverance, everything the Union had fought for could unravel. That night in July, he reached for a sheet of paper. He did not summon a secretary. He did not dictate. He wrote in his own hand, carefully, deliberately. The letter was short, only a few sentences, but the weight behind it was enormous. This morning, he began. As for some days past, it seems exceedingly probable that this administration will not be re-elected. He paused. For months, he had watched public opinion shift. Victories that once lifted morale were now overshadowed by casualty reports. The war felt endless. Even members of his own party doubted his chances. He continued writing. If he lost the election, he said, it would be his duty to cooperate with the president-elect to save the Union between November and the inauguration in March. The man elected on a peace platform, Lincoln feared, might not be able to preserve the Union afterward. So Lincoln pledged that in the final months of his presidency, even after defeat, he would do everything in his power to protect the nation.
When he finished, he folded the paper. The next day, he gathered his cabinet. Without telling them what was written inside, he asked each member to sign the back of the sealed document. They did so, curious but obedient. They had no idea they were witnessing one of the most revealing moments of Lincoln's presidency. The letter was not meant to be sent. It was not meant to be public. It was a quiet record of his state of mind, a president preparing for political failure while the fate of the nation still hung in the balance. Imagine the loneliness of that moment. Here was a man leading a war that had already claimed hundreds of thousands of lives. He had issued the Emancipation Proclamation, transforming the conflict into a fight against slavery. He had endured criticism from radicals who thought him too cautious and conservatives who thought him too extreme. Now he faced the possibility that the voters would reject him altogether. He did not rage. He did not scheme to postpone the election. He did not consider clinging to power. He prepared to accept defeat. But acceptance did not mean surrender. Lincoln's fear was not about losing the presidency for personal reasons. It was about timing. If he lost in November 1864, he would remain president until March 1865. That window, 4 months, could determine whether the Confederacy survived. A president-elect promising negotiation might signal weakness to the South. Confederate leaders could stall, hoping for better terms. The war effort could collapse.
So Lincoln committed himself to act decisively during that fragile transition period, even if the public had voted him out. It was an act of humility and duty at the same time. As summer turned to late August, Lincoln's political prospects grew darker. Jubal Early's Confederate forces threatened Washington itself. Panic flickered through the Capitol. Northern newspapers predicted Lincoln's defeat with growing confidence. He moved through these days with a calm exterior. He visited soldiers. He reviewed telegrams from the front. He cracked jokes when appropriate. But privately, he understood how close everything stood to slipping away. Then, in early September, a telegram arrived from Georgia. General William Tecumseh Sherman had captured Atlanta. The news spread like lightning across the North. Church bells rang, crowds celebrated in the streets. The victory did more than secure a strategic city. It revived hope. It proved the Union was winning. Almost overnight, the political tide shifted. By November, Lincoln won re-election decisively. Only after the victory did he open the sealed memorandum and show his cabinet what they had signed months earlier. They read the words in silence. They saw the doubt he had carried alone.
The letter remains one of the most human documents of his presidency. It shows not the towering figure carved in marble, but a weary man confronting uncertainty. It reveals a leader who did not assume history would favor him. It shows someone prepared for rejection, yet unwilling to abandon responsibility. There is something quietly extraordinary about that. Many leaders speak boldly about destiny and confidence. Lincoln, in private, acknowledged the possibility of failure. And instead of letting fear paralyze him, he made a plan to protect the country regardless of his own political fate. He never meant to send the letter. It was never addressed to a person. It was addressed to duty itself. Less than a year later, in April 1865, the Confederacy surrendered. The Union was preserved. Slavery was dying. Lincoln would not live long enough to see Reconstruction begin. An assassin's bullet would cut his life short just days after victory. But that July night in 1864 reminds us of something essential. History is not inevitable. Triumph is not guaranteed. Even the greatest leaders face moments when they believe they might fail. On July 22, 1864, Abraham Lincoln sat at his desk believing he might lose the presidency and perhaps the war. He folded the letter. He sealed it. And he kept going.